Shack Barbecue on West Bay Drive in downtown Largo. Their menu offers family-sized takeout dinners like delicious ribs, chicken, beef, and pork, or sit-down barbecue dinners, sandwiches, and even desserts. They will also cater your party. Everything is barbecued fresh using real oak for that great smoky flavor. So visit my friend Corey at the Rib Shack Barbecue in downtown Largo, West Bay Drive, or call them for a takeout order at 727-501-9090. That's 727-501-9090. They truly have the best smoking barbecue in town. Oh, and be sure and check out their great barbecue sauce. That's the Rib Shack Barbecue in downtown Largo, 727-501-9090. I'm telling Robert from Nostalgic Radio and Cars sent you. You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
Amigo. It's not smart to go wandering so far from home.
I reckon he picked the wrong trail.
Or he could have picked the wrong town.
His big mistake, I think, was getting born.
You want any work? Looking like that? You could try being a scarecrow.
Oh, no, the crows are liable to scare him, maybe.
Hello?
Saludos.
Oh, tiene el viento.
Get 3 coffins ready.
Huh?
Adios, amigo.
Listen, stranger, did you get the idea? We don't like to see bad boys like you in town. Go get your mule. You let him get away from you?
You see, that's what I want to talk to you about. He's feeling real bad.
Huh?
My mule. You see, he got all riled up when you men fired those shots at his feet.
Hey, you making some kind of joke?
No. You see, I understand you men were just playing around, but the mule, he just doesn't get it. Of course, if you were to all apologize... I don't think it's nice you laughing. You see, my mule don't like people laughing. It's the crazy idea you're laughing at him. Now, if you apologize like I know you're going to, I might convince him that you really didn't mean it.
I saw the whole thing. You killed all 4 of them. You'll pay all right. You'll be strung up.
Who are you?
Don't fire a shot. I'm John Baxter, sheriff.
Yeah. Well, if you're the sheriff, you better get these men on the ground. My mistake. 4 coffins.
And now...
Hey, Rocky! Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Button up my sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Hi, this is Gary Patterson, president of Shelby American, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, listeners, welcome. You're tuned in to Nostalgic Video Cars, and I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computers and Google TAN Talk 1340.com, and you can see us live in the studios in downtown Clearwater. Don't forget to check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com, where you can find out all about us. And if you've missed any of our past shows, 509, 510, somewhere in there, you can check out our archive page, Nostalgic Video Cars. Good evening, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be back here.
And Tommy's behind the COVID-20 big plate glass there. He's hiding. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm just lovely. 521, I think it is.
Yes, 521 shows. Yeah.
521 shows?
Yep,
Wow.
Yep, I was going to, yeah.
Wow.
If you were paying attention, Robert, you'd know these things.
Well, you know, time flies when you're having fun. So it's good to be back in the studio here in downtown Clearwater, because last week we did a live remote from Ford Lincoln of Ocala, correct, Bobby?
Yes.
And Bobby did a sensational job.
Well.
Yeah, it was almost
Tommy
textbook perfect. And Tommy, excellent job. I mean, you know, we're up there with the guys from Shelby American.
Mm-hmm.
And get the A-team.
The A-team. The A-team. Absolutely. Pat yourselves on the back, guys. And that's why we had Gary Patterson do a liner for us this morning or this evening, on our show, because Gary Patterson, a friend of mine, and he's now the president of Shelby American. As a matter of fact, in the transporter was Gary's own personal 1968 Shelby GT500 4-speed in Highland Green. Yes, Highland Green's famous because of the movie Bullet, the 68 Mustang that was used in that movie. At any rate,
you could see that trailer from a mile away from this.
Absolutely, Shelby American, and they had a whole bunch of really cool cars there. Everything from the new prototype, the 2021 Shelby GT500 prototype with some cool stuff on it, and GT350s, GT350Rs. And what I didn't really realize is how popular the trucks are. And they were telling me, we had Matt on the show, Matt from Shelby American, and the Shelby trucks apparently sell 3 to 4 to 1. I had no idea. And they're very expensive. I mean, they're $100,000 plus trucks, but they're very fast. And they're Shelby trucks. Now, and they're built at Shelby American in Las Vegas. Now, Bobby, you were there a few years ago with us. Mm-hmm. And I'm there usually in November, this time of year, and another month or 2 or 3. When we would have SEMA, although this year SEMA has been postponed until next year. So we won't say canceled. We'll just say postponed. At any rate, along with a number of other events.
Well, because they're looking into an alternative to have a virtual one.
What a lot of the car shows, and I want to give a big shout out to the guys at Peterson Museum in California, because they're really huge in this virtual car show thing. And then our friends out in Monterey, because ordinarily, a couple weeks ago would have been Monterey car show. So they did a bunch of virtual stuff, the guys at Pebble Beach. So that's kind of where this is all kind of heading out. Now, like I said, there are some local shows going on. And again, last week at Ford Lincoln of Ocala, they had a small car show there. So it was on a 2-day event. It was Tuesdays and Wednesday. And Tuesday, they had a bunch of guys show up with cars. In fact, we had a couple of kids come on our show, each of them owning Mustangs. And again, their families are involved with it. So, it starts with the dad. Dad gets the kids involved. The kids get their friends involved, and everybody's involved in the cars, kind of like you are too. So that's what we want to do. We want to get kids, the younger generation, into it. And even though I'm into the vintage stuff, Bobby fortunately is into the vintage stuff too, but he likes the newer stuff too because he is kind of techie. And these kids are kind of into the techie cars, so they get into the S195s and the S197s, which is the mid '90s cars, and the early 2000 cars and stuff like that. And those cars are really, really affordable right now. So you can buy those cars and step in them and soup them up, customize them, and have a great time. Get on the road and burn some rubber, man. And, all these guys were stick guys, too. Nobody drives a little sissy shifter. They drive 3-pedal cars. That's the deal, man. And but it was a great turnout, great bunch of guys. We even had, what was his name? Jeff? The guy from... the salesman? What was his name?
Yeah. Well.
Oh, my memory's bad. Anyway, Pat was in it. Pat did a very good job because he talked about the big shout out to Pat, big shout out to our friends up there. Steve, Rick Schmidt was there from National Parts Depot. Big shout out to National Parts Depot if you ever need Mustang parts, Chevelle parts, Camaro parts, Ford truck parts even. Give our buddies up there at National Parts Depot a shout out. Pete from Orlando Mustang, he was tuned in. And so, it was just it was a pretty cool event. So a lot of the smaller events, where you can kind of do the social distancing thing, and not get up on top of each other, that kind of works, especially if they're outdoor venues. Now, speaking of outdoor venues, last weekend we also went to Sumter County Fairgrounds for the swap meet. So that was cool. I mean, guys were just happy to get out there and do stuff. I mean, it was a small turnout, but it was a good turnout. I mean, usually when I go to these events, if I get one little item that I can use, something that I need, then for me it's basically a win-win deal. But there was a lot of guys there. But it was kind of a social thing, networking, buddies saying hi to everybody. It's kind of like, if we all had a beer and we're standing around the tool shed, toolbox or the shop, and jaw jacking, that's kind of what it was about.
Picture this.
Picture this, yeah.
You're standing
right. And then that's the first Sunday of every month is the Sumter County Fairgrounds swap meet, and that's cool. Got stuff to get rid of, whatever, and if you're looking for something. And then, of course, the third Sunday of every month up here in, Brooksville, just south of Brooksville off Ayers Road, is Leadfoot City's swap meet. And that was a lot of fun. And that thing is growing. But the thing I like about that particular event is because, A, not only do they have the swap meet, they got a car show. They got cars for sale, but they got entertainment, motorcycles even. So that was pretty cool. And so check out the Leadfoot City's deal.
And where do you find all this stuff?
Where do you find all this stuff? You find it, on Nostalgic Radio and Cars. You can Google us, but
FLA Car Shows.
FLAcarshows.com. Yeah. And they have, there's a lot of virtual car shows going on. A lot of guys are driving. A lot of guys are getting together in small little groups and cruising, and that's good. And there's still a number of car shows that take place. Crystal River up there, for example, they're up there. I think it's Saturdays up there. They do their things up there at Wendy's. And I'm sure there's a lot of them going, a lot of smaller venues going on. The big ones, where people are generally on top of each other, those have kind of been postponed, or they're doing virtual. They're doing virtual events. So that's one way to kind of work this thing out. Now we may in the future kind of experiment with that a little bit.
Yeah, because it's interesting.
It's interesting. And Bobby, you're more in tune with the tech side, the Zoom, and how all that stuff works, right?
Yep. But yeah, that's something we're gonna look into interviews with that and stuff like that.
Now, let me just tell you what I did a couple of weeks ago. Week before last, I had to, as you guys all know, that I do appraisals on cars. So that means I travel a little bit, or sometimes the cars come to me. So 2 weeks ago, I had to go up to Alabama, a little town called Eufaula, and it's just north of Dothan a ways. And so as I was diddy-bopping up 19 in the middle of darkness, in the very wee AM hours of the day, I could see a lot of stuff still sitting alongside of the roads, okay? And as you go north, especially if you take the side roads, which is exactly what I did. I stayed off the interstate. The only time I was on the interstate was a little short stretch when I got up to Tallahassee, I-10, and then I went north in 27, and I just kind of got lost. I kind of Googled where I had to go. So, yes, did I find some cool cars? If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see some of the stuff. There was a Barracuda just disintegrated, but it was sitting in the weeds. I mean, literally in the weeds, okay? There was a picture of that. There was an old Mercedes. One or two Mustangs, a Ranchero, a couple 64 Galaxies. One, even on the window, it said 428 coverage, but naturally I had to pull over real quick and check that out. But it was a 4-speed 390 car. And, it was a Z code, which I think is a 394 barrel. And the other one was also a 390, but it was an automatic car. And so you're really, the 4-speed car is kind of rusty, the automatic car. But they are identical black cars. But I think 63.5 Galaxy is a pretty cool looking car. Then I saw 64 Galaxy, which I mentioned, the 68, 69 Ranchero. Couldn't get too close to that. Saw that from a distance. 69 Mustang sitting in the guy's garage. 47 Ford. Countless Mustangs, obviously. A lot of trucks up there. A lot of old trucks. If you guys are looking for trucks, you need to kind of scour the countryside there between Georgia and Alabama. In fact, funny little situation. I was sitting there, and I pulled over, and I saw the one car, and I rolled up in there. And I go to the guy, can I look at the cars? Looked at the cars, and he took me around back, and he showed me some other stuff he had. And there was a hood laying up against the car. He says, yeah, I'm not sure how it got here, but one day it appeared. And it was a hood off a Toyota. And I think it's the 50th anniversary of Daytona or whatever it was, something like that. So whenever that was. And NASCAR. So it was off whoever was racing Toyotas back in the day, which was probably Joe Gibbs and whoever the driver was. I'm not sure. I know today I think it might be Kyle Busch. But at any rate, he had some cool stuff. And then as I was getting ready to leave, I said, because I kind of lost track of where I was at because I was just driving down the road. And when you're rubberneck and looking left and right and all over the road, you kind of don't really pay attention to where you're at or signs. You're only looking for, the only landmarks you're looking for are cars. And you're looking behind the woods, behind the sheds, all over the place, right? So I said to the guy, I said, hey, kind of lost track of where am I? Am I in Alabama yet? The guy looks up and he goes, boy, you're in Georgia. Alabama is out there north. And I just got a big kick out of that because this guy's name was Kenny, super nice guy, good old boy, classic Georgia redneck. I mean, just really, really cool guy. Into his cars, and he was out. He had an old forklift I was actually looking at, an old Clark, a little small, tiny one that you can zip around in a warehouse. That was kind of a cool place. But when he said that to me, boy, you're in Georgia, I just laughed because it just, it was just cool.
You just thought you needed to get a map out there.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
because I mean, it would have taken 2 seconds, shakes of a flash, how they say. And I could have just pulled my phone out and just gone maps. But no, I asked because I just had to ask, But it was cool. It was pretty far out. Because I really dig a Southern accent. I think it's kind of neat.
Now you'll know when you're in Georgia.
Now I'll know when I'm in Georgia. But anyway, so there was a lot of stuff. And as I was cruising through there, it was pretty cool. In fact, you know what? On the way back, I took some side roads. And I went through Chattahoochee, Florida. I went through Quincy. I went through Monticello. Number of those. And I was amazed at how many. In fact, I think it was outside of Quincy. There was an old, if you go to my Facebook page, there's a picture of it. There was a really cool, completely 100% laid out golf garage with the neon sign on the roof, all the stuff, the pumps, the globes, the air pumps, on the outside with the hoses, inside, all the stuff, all the racks, all the signs. Really, really cool piece. It was an old gas station that somebody had restored. Absolutely incredible. There was no cars in there, but just everything was there. So, and then the funny part was it says, open for business. But, of course, this was on a Sunday night or Saturday evening, whenever it was, so they weren't open. There was another place I stopped to was, forget what little town. It was Chattahoochee. And there was a guy, Sinclair pumps, all done up really, really nice, the taller ones, not the globe ones like out of the 20s, but the 30s style. Just cool stuff. I mean, it's Americana. A few years ago, last year, we had our good friend Ken Breslauer on from Sebring. And Ken, didn't he do a book, or we talking about, we had roadside attractions in Florida. And I just remember growing up as a kid, just driving up and down these side roads, US 19, 27, 301, 41, 441, up and down the East Coast, US 1. Just amazing stuff. And when you go back and you see this stuff, it's really cool. Retro nostalgia is in, guys. In fact, there was an old building, and countless buildings I saw, but you couldn't always get. Obviously, I didn't want to get shot, so I had to kind of watch my P's and Q's a little bit. But there was this really cool old building, and I saw it on the side of the road, and it had Coca-Cola written on the side of it. It was a wooden building. Now, if I'd had a chainsaw and my other truck with me, I probably would have gone to the owner and said, "Can I cut the whole side of your building out, put it on my truck, and bring it back?" Because it was just cool. It was kind of faded. It was just really neat looking. It was just, And then I looked inside the building. The building was caving. It was dilapidated, and there was an old Coca-Cola. The big freezers in there that you pull your soda pop bottles out of. Some old signs, but again, it was on private property. I was, just kind of walked up there, but it had a for sale sign on it, and I think I wrote the for sale sign down probably, so I should follow up on it. But anyway, it's just really, really cool. If you get out, just drive. Take your old car out, drive. But if you got a few days to do nothing, take a cruise up to North Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. It's a pretty country. Southern hospitality, can't beat it. It's really cool. Southern food, it's cool. Although I hate Cracker Barrel when I'm on the road. That's my safe haven. But anyway, on that note, I think Tom is going to go to a commercial break here real quick, and then we're going to fire up the stereo again, and then we're going to come on with our special guest for the evening because there's a lot of car stuff still going on, even though it's digital. Hey, you're tuned into Nostalgic Radio Cars. Here's a little Jeff Healey. Hey, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Had your number, baby, but I lost it. I know you love it's just a flim playing here. Though you can't move the world up from me, 'cause I'm a confident man. I can talk old ladies after all of their money. I can talk young girls and calling me honey. You can talk all you want, baby, but I got fast hands. You're a real soft touch, but I'm a confident man. I know you never talk
Come enjoy the best brews in Tampa Bay at Dunedin Brewery. Known as Florida's oldest microbrewery, they are always working to create a unique variety of craft beers for every taste. In addition, Dunedin Brewery features a full menu, including everything from their famous wings, burgers, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget about their live music, including the Wednesday Night Players Jam. That's Dunedin Brewery, 937 Douglas Avenue in downtown Dunedin. Visit them online at DunedinBrewery.com. Looking for car shows? Then look no further than FLACarshows.com. On your computer or on your mobile device, FLACarshows.com is a comprehensive list of automotive events, plus videos and news articles. Whether you're looking for car shows, cruise-ins, meetups, automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at FLACarshows.com.
Okay, we're back from the Tune Into Nostalgic Radio Cars. Now, I forgot to mention to you that the car that I went up there to appraise in Alabama.
Oh, yeah, that'd be important.
Yeah, was a one-owner, family, stayed in the family since day one, 1955 Austin Healey 104. Now, my first car was a 65 Austin Healey 3000 MK3, but this was a 1955, so this car was like 10 years earlier than mine. So, I looked at the car, extremely solid, well-maintained. The car had been restored, but it was restored like something like 25, 30 years ago. And so the paint was old, and it looks like it might have been even done in lacquer, which is probably what they would have done 30, 40 years ago. But it was in incredible condition. And the miles on that car, I think, were just a little over 100,000. So the gentleman that owned it took delivery of it while he was stationed in Germany in 1955. It even had the original bill of sale. He paid $2,200 and change for a 1955 Austin Hill, which was a lot of money back in the days. Keep in mind, this is 1955. While he was a private stationed in the military in Frankfurt and Mainz. Now, this is where I go with this. Provenance, paperwork, documentation is all extremely important. The fact that it's one owner in the same family since new, these are kind of things that people look for. I mean, this is kind of, it's rare to find one in this condition. Usually they're more or less like survivor condition, but either or. The fact that there's a chain of history and this car was in the same ownership for all these years adds a premium to the value of a car. So, if it's a one-owner car, two-owner car, and you get all the paperwork, all the documentation, absolutely. And these are the kind of cars you have to keep original. If you find a car that's, an older car, let's say you found the Healey, and like a friend of mine just picked up a Austin Healey Bug Eye Sprite, been sitting around for a long time, no motor, no training. Well, now that car, you can either restore the car or you can modify it and go kind of crazy with it, okay? Don't put a Subaru motor in it, but I mean, you can put a little bit bigger engine, hotter engine in it, and a little bigger Austin Healey motor or something like that out of a Sprite out of the mid-60s or something like rather than the small motor. The peanut motor, as they call it. But nonetheless, so, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Mustang, a Camaro, or any car like that. If the car's original, you want to keep it as close to original as possible, especially if the car's got, history, provenance, and all that other good stuff. If the car's just kind of like a beater project car, hey, pot luck is, anything goes, so to speak. The car just has to put a smile on your face. On that note, I think Tommy's going to go ahead and fire up the stereo again, and we're going to get our guest on the show because we got a special guest coming on this evening. He's also a real serious car guy with some interesting history. He's a racer, pretty cool stuff. Hey, you're tuning into Nostalgic Radio Cars. Don't touch the dial. We'll be right back.
The one that makes me scream, she said. The one that makes me laugh, she said. Threw her arms around my neck. Show me how you do it, and I promise that I'll run away with you. I'll run away with you.
are you getting at?
Oh, man, can't you see? It's all ours. We don't go back to Durango at all, Savvy? Not at all.
I don't follow you, Dobbsy.
Oh, don't be such a sap. Where did you ever grow up? All right, to make it clear to a dumbhead like you, we take all his goods and go straight up north and leave the old jackass flat.
You aren't serious, are you? You don't really mean what you're saying.
Fred C. Dobbs don't say nothing he don't mean.
As long as I'm here and can do anything about it, you won't touch a single grain of the old man's goods.
I know exactly what you mean. You want to take it all for yourself and cut me out.
No, Dobbs. I'm on the level with the old man, just as I'd be on the level with you if you weren't here.
Get off your soapbox, will you? You only sound foolish out here in this wilderness. I know you for what you are. For a long time I've had my suspicions about you. Now I know I've been right.
What suspicions are you talking about?
Oh, you're not putting anything over on me. I see right through you. For a long time you've had it in your mind to bump me off at the first good opportunity and bury me out here in the bush like a dog. So you can take not only the old man's goods, but mine in the bargain. And when you get to Durango safely, you'll have a big laugh, won't you? Thinking how dumb the old man and I were. You make another move toward me and I'll pull the trigger. Now, get your hands up. Come on, get them up! Was I right, or was I? You and your Sunday school talk about protecting people's goods. You. Come on, stand up and take it like a man. Come on, get up! Let go of it.
Cards are dealt the other way now, Dobbs.
Yeah.
Now listen to me.
Dobbs,
Obviously, look, you're all wrong. Not for a moment did I ever intend to rob you or do you any harm. Just like I said, I'd fight for you and yours just the same as I'd fight for the old man's.
If you really mean that, give me back my gun. My pal.
Wouldn't it be better the way things are to separate tomorrow? Or even tonight?
That would suit you fine, wouldn't it?
Why me more than you?
So you could fall on me from behind, sneak up and shoot me in the back.
All right, I'll go first.
And wait for me on the trail, ambush me?
Why wouldn't I do it right here and now if I meant to kill you?
I'll tell you why. Because you're yellow. You haven't got nerve enough to pull the trigger while I'm looking you straight in the eye.
If you think like that, there's nothing to do but to tie you up every night.
Hi everyone, Justin Bell here, race car driver turned TV and web host. I'm still trying to work out what that means. Anyway, I am the co-host of the talk show with Tommy Kendall around all the IMSA races, and right now we're on Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, we're back, and you are tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and it's time to introduce our special guest for the evening. And this gentleman is the director of the Saratoga Motorcars auction, and he's also involved with the Saratoga Cars Museum. I'm delighted to welcome to the show this evening, Bill Windham. Bill, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. A little tired, but we're 2 weeks away from the auction, and with all the guidelines with COVID, we've been dancing on thin ice, but we're going to get there.
So tell us a little about the Saratoga auction, Motorcar auction. Now, this is what, the third or fourth year that you've had this event up there?
This will be, it's our fourth year. In a regular year, we'd have a 2-day auction, both Friday and Saturday, but because of the COVID guidelines, we're going to be forced to do it in one day. Normally, we have between 350 cars entered. This year, the max that we can get done through the auction is probably right around 250 cars. So it'll be a long day. It'll be a 9 to 9 day for sure.
Interesting. Now, I was reading on some of the cars that are going through there, and I guess the highlight of the auction is the 57 Plymouth from the movie Christine, right?
Yeah, that's one of the many highline cars or cars that are getting people's attraction that we're having. Yeah, for sure. And it's the real deal. It's not a car like a Batmobile replica. It's the real car that was in the movie. We have all the documentation that illustrates that.
How many cars did they have in the? How many Plymouths did they use in that movie?
From the background that we got in the documentation, it appears there were four cars used. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the other cars that are highlighting your auction?
One of the highlight cars is Don Yanko's Daytona Corvette that he ran in 1975.
Okay.
Ran against the factory BMWs and Porsches. Ran against my former employer Brumos and Peter Gregg Hurley Haywood. And that's a car that has never been hasn't been offered for sale since Jerry Thompson and Don Yanko drove it in 75.
Oh, wow.
Totally restored car. And it ran as high as third place before they ran into some aerodynamic issues. But it was a sister car to John Greenwood's Batmobile Corvettes. It's with the big fenders to support all the wide tires. And it was basically a Chevrolet Skunk Works car. That a lot of the engineering and technology that went into it was secretly supplied by General Motors.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because there was a gentleman that was around back then, and I think he's still around today, but does the name Gib Hufstetter ring a bell?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, well, he was one of the guys that was secretly involved, walking around with the trench coats and with car parts inside, and he was secretly involved with Skunk Works. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but all the manufacturers, all the big three, Ford, GM, Chrysler, they had their kind of like the front door sponsorship, and then there was always the secret backdoor stuff that was going on.
Yeah, as you well know, Jim Hall was famous for being Chevrolet's Skunk Works team.
Oh, yeah.
All the engineering that went into his cars really came out of Detroit.
So now you mentioned that you raced back in the day. So tell us a little bit about your racing background.
Well, racing myself, I started in Formula V and then progressed to Formula Ford. And when Jules Villeneuve was one of my heroes, I made it to Formula Atlantic, but I didn't have the budget to really continue there. So that was sort of the end of my driving career. But in the meantime, I had worked for Roger Penske on his race team. I worked on the Indy team. I did the North American Formula One races. I did some NASCAR with Bobby Allison. We did the IROC series. Back then, we had 12 guys in the shop, 12, 14 guys, and we ran the whole program, 2 Indy cars, NASCAR, IROC, all out of that shop. Now they've got 12 engineers on each one of their racing cars.
Now, you're talking about this is when you were with Penske?
Yes. That would have been 76 through 81.
Okay. So what was it like working for Roger Penske? The captain, as they call him.
Yeah, the captain, RP, Mr. Penske, however you referred to him. I was very young when I got started. I was very fortunate. I started at 21, and my first role with Penske was to promote the 91730 Can-Am Porsche.
With Donahue?
Roger had Donahue was in Europe, and he had just lost his life in Austria.
Oh.
And Sunoco had been a sponsor for years for Roger, was coming out with a new do-it-yourself motor oil called Cam 2 motor oil. And what they did, because basically the 91730 was outlawed in the Can-Am series, it just decimated the Can-Am series, is we really didn't have a use for the car. So Roger and Mark decided that they were going to attempt to break the world speed record and closed world speed record. And they did indeed accomplish that. And my first role with them was to take the car as a sponsor liaison between a racing team and Sunoco around the country. And while doing that, we were always short of pit crew members. So if it was a NASCAR race, an IndyCar race, if it was IROC, whatever, you were on board. Working for Roger, there were no calendars and no time clocks, I can assure you that.
Was the pay very good?
Not for the hours you put in, but again, he's been my mentor ever since. I try to, run my life the way Roger instructed everyone. Effort equals results, and that has always been his mantra.
Effort equals results. I like that.
Yeah. So it was difficult to go to work for anybody else after having worked for Roger. I can tell you that. But you move on. You've been to that track 12 times. It's time to do something else.
Was Judy Stropus working for him back then when you were there?
She was. Yeah, she was.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, that's a small world.
Yes. The racing world's a very small world.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so then after Penske, where'd you go from there? you were involved with obviously Brumos. So was that
Brumos
later
before?
I
was in Brumos. After I left there, I had a friend that I had met through my driving days who had inherited a lot of money from a business his father owned and passed away. And he took the money that was, willed to him, and he bought a Porsche Audi dealership in Reading, Pennsylvania, where we were based out of at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me to come in and run the Porsche Audi dealership. So I was a GM there for, I guess, 4 or 5 years. He was into vintage racing as well, so I helped with the vintage racing program that he had.
Mm-hmm.
He had 935s and Ferrari F40s and that kind of car.
Interesting. Well, now, isn't Ray Hall, isn't he out of Pennsylvania too? Doesn't he have a couple dealerships there?
Ray Hall outside of Harrisburg and in Pittsburgh has quite a few dealer franchises,
mm-hmm.
but he's based out of, his home base is Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Always has been.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were with when did you go make that transition from that dealership in Pennsylvania to Brumos?
It was about 3 years into my tenure. I had always been a fan of Brumos, and historically Peter Gregg and that that 59 car and Hurley Haywood, back when I was with Penske, they were kicking everybody's butt in the IMSA series.
Mm-hmm.
And racing Al Holbert was pretty competitive with him, and again John Greenwood. But I always viewed them as really the face of Porsche in the United States through all their racing successes, and thought it would be an honor, to work for them. Ray Schaefer and I hooked up, and Ray hired me. But it was interesting, when you worked for Brumos Porsche, everybody had some sort of racing background. It was affiliated. If it was sales, if it was technicians, if it was parts people, they all had a racing background. And of course, Hurley was the figurehead of the operation as well. He was there in the office nearly every day.
Was Snodgrass there when you were there?
Snodgrass was there, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Brumos.
He was a tough old bird to work for too, believe me.
Well, the thing about Brumos is Peter Schutz, who was the president of Porsche, I think from 1981 till 87, 88. So I had the pleasure of meeting him. I actually went to Germany in 80 and 81, and I was on I used to go with a friend of mine that had a company called Fast Lane Travel, and they used to do these special tours to the Porsche factory. Mm-hmm. So we became friends in 80, and then 81, I was invited to go back with him as an interpreter because I speak German, because I lived in Europe in the 60s when I was a kid. So I actually had the opportunity to meet Ferry Porsche and Dr. Ferry and Peter Schutz. And because Peter Sontag, who owns Fastlane Travel, was really good friends with, I actually got to sit at the head table with those guys. So here now, and this is 1981, and I was in my early 20s. I did not really realize who I was in the midst of at the time. You stop and think about that. You talk a little bit, and because I speak German and Peter Schutz speaks German, and Peter Sontag obviously is Austrian as well. And so we're all talking language. We're talking the language. We're not really thinking about who they really are. They're just another guy, like the rest of us are. And then I never got an autograph. I never got a picture with them. And I look back in retrospect now and I said, boy, was that stupid. And because I'm a huge Shelby fan. So I had the opportunity, and I'm one of the state reps for the Shelby Club. So I, kind of used to see Carroll Shelby around, and he's been on my show. And we talked. Matter of fact, Peter Schiss has been on the show as well. And but I look back and I go, wow. So I had this connection with Porsche, which is very partial to me, and I also have this connection with Shelby. But Brumos was Porsche's, let's just say, pet dealership in the United States, just like you said.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it was, there were probably more posters that were produced by the factory to hang in showrooms that had Brumos logos hanging on their cars than any other racing car that Porsche supported or had factory connections to. That's for sure.
All right, now then from there, you got involved with RM auctions. Tell us a little bit about that, how that took place.
Yeah, actually, there was a little gap in between where I have a home in Montana and I have an office in it, and I went to college there, and I just, I wanted to go back to the mountains for a while, and I became a Highline buyer for a big Pacific Northwest dealer group that had BMW and Porsche Mercedes-Benz franchises. and my role there was to travel around the country to the Mannheim Highline auctions and purchase inventory. So I really got into the auction industry that way.
Okay.
And then I had an opportunity through some connections. I was always a collector car guy, always into collector cars. My uncle owned a British restoration shop with me growing up. So my passion was primarily European sports cars.
Okay.
But I had a connection with the RM Auctions America group, and was offered an opportunity to come on board and be based. My office is based out of Auburn, Indiana. They have offices in Paris. They have offices in London, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Toronto, and are probably the most respected of the major classic car auction companies in the world. So I've just been very lucky, again, to work for the premier Porsche dealer, Roger Penske, and have the experience of working with the folks at RM Sotheby's. Very, very lucky because they are the best of the best.
Now, what was it like? How long were you with Auctions America or RM?
I was with them for 3 years.
Okay. So then you worked with Donnie and Gould?
Oh, Donnie, yeah. Donnie was my mentor. Okay. He was my Roger Penske.
Really?
For sure. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That guy, yeah, he's the best in the business, and there's nobody he doesn't know.
He's a big Shelby guy, too. That's kind of where Donnie and I know each other. Yeah.
Yeah, Donnie can recite Shelby CSX numbers off the top of his head. He can tell you where every Cobra is in the country or the world.
Just about.
Yeah.
All right, then you teamed up there. You got buddies with Ramsey. Ramsey, I just met a couple years ago. You can't miss him. You see him at RM Auction all over. He's got his big hat on and everything like. Real personable guy.
Super. In fact, how Ramsey and I go back 30 years
Really?
back into racing, and I was at our auction in Scottsdale 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually saw him. I went over to the David Gooding auction for a preview, and I saw Ramsey in the tent. I said, "Ramsey, what are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm interviewing with David Gooding for become a specialist." I said, "No, you're not. You're coming to work for me." So I was the one who actually hired him, and he's his own brand, and I'm so proud of what he's accomplished. Ramsey was very successful in his own right in business prior to getting into the auction business. But, he's his own brand, and I'm really proud of how quickly he's become a figure of the RM group, for sure.
So what did he do before he came to work for RM?
He was a big executive with Aflac he was like a Southeast regional manager, managed hundreds of people, and he got cancer, and really it was very, very serious. And after he was told that he's good to go and got through it, he said, "I'm going to take the rest of my life. I'm going to pursue my passion, and that's classic cars."
Wow.
So that's how that whole thing came about. But yeah, he was a top level executive with Aflac.
Interesting. Aflac.
Exactly.
I couldn't miss that opportunity. But all right. So then, how did you get? So when you left RM, is that when you started getting involved with the Saratoga Motorcar?
Saratoga. Yeah,
Okay.
A lot of people say Saratoga.
Yeah, I know. I just did myself.
Saratoga. And it comes off your lips that way, especially if people are down in Florida, But what had happened was Rob Myers, who runs RM, had decided to close the Auction America, which was it was a sister company of RM, and was really actually Rob was a partner with Donnie Gould and a gentleman by the name of Ed Keprin, and Donnie had really got his experience through the cruise auctions that were held in Auburn. Prior to they coming in and taking over when cruise went underwater. So when they decided they were going to do away with the Auction America franchise, I was sort of, am I going to go to Canada, or that was where the office was going. And I'm sort of burned out. I had like 8 specialists working for me, and we did 8 to 12 auctions a year. So I decided to go back to Montana for a while. And then and I think it might have been through Ramsey, but I got a phone call from a headhunter in New York City that said that, would you have interest in getting back into the auction business? The Saratoga Motorcar Auction is through the Saratoga Auto Museum is looking for a auction director. Would you be interested? And I had friends that were in the thoroughbred racing business that had always talked about the beauty of Saratoga. So I said, well, I'll talk to them. And ultimately, we came together on a deal, and here I am.
Interesting. Now, Saratoga itself is kind of a unique area. It's probably best known for two things. One, the horses, and secondly, a little phrase in the song You're So Vain from Carly Simon, right, which we talked about earlier. So tell us a little bit about the Saratoga Museum, the Automobile Museum, and then its connection with you and the auction.
Yeah. The Saratoga Auto Museum, the building that we utilize to display all the cars. In fact, right now we have Rob Dyson's racing collection.
Oh, okay.
So that's right up my line. And a lot of Rob's street cars. And if you like Cobra, he has an all-original 289 Cobra that we have in the museum. But it's situated in the Saratoga State Park, which is surprisingly right in the middle of town. It's a 500-acre square state park, which houses 2 golf courses, and it's a real recreational area. And back when the Works Progress Administration took effect after the Depression, they built up all these beautiful buildings in the park for people to come from the city, and it had a reputation of curing people's ills because we have so many springs with mineral waters and so on and so forth. In fact, you can walk around the park and there's 4 or 5 places where you can actually fill your water bottles with spring water. It's really great. And so the museum was a bottling works. And I don't know, probably 30 or 40 years ago, they closed it up. And somewhere along the way, it has gone through different renditions. And but the museum has been there, I think, for somewhere around 12 or 13 years. And the purpose for the auction is it's the largest revenue generator for the museum and to maintain its existence. So that's the motivation behind it. It's it's a nonprofit, and particularly in certain times, raising money for nonprofits is very difficult. So my responsibility, it's a little pressure for sure, is to make sure that museum stays open. So that's my role. I have a very, very small staff. We rely on, in a normal year, to stage the event of somewhere close to 250 volunteers. And without the volunteers, there would be no way that we could afford to put an auction on of this level because we just don't have the full-time staff. That's when I got hired, I said, well, how many staff am I going to have? Coming from RM, there's 50 people in marketing and doing all the backgrounds and writing descriptions and taking photographs, and you have 10, 12 guys chasing cars. When I asked them how many staff members I have, and they said 1. That's my administrative assistant. And I said, how in the world am I going to pull this off? 350, 400 cars? But it's because of the volunteers and the marketing people, graphic arts people that generally spend 9 months out of the year promoting the museum. They go into high gear with me 3 months prior to the auction.
How many cars do they usually have on display at the museum?
I'm going to say somewhere between 25 and 30, depending on what the theme of the exhibition is.
Okay.
But right now, we got one of Dan Gurney's early Eagles, Indy cars. We have one of Jack Brabham's early Coopers World Championship cars. And again, they're all owned by Rob Dyson. We have Dyson's 962. We have a couple of his ALMS prototype cars. So yeah, a real variety.
Excellent. So if people want to find out more about the Saratoga Motorcar auction as well as the museum, how do they go about doing that? In one of 2 websites, Saratoga Motorcar
SaratogaAuction.org or SaratogaAutomuseum.org.
Okay. And the auction's going to be live, so anybody can pre-register and then
That's
basically bid on the cars.
Exactly. You can be live. We're going to limit it this year because we have to, social distancing. So only bidders and consigners will be actually live at the event itself. However, having said that, and from talking to all my friends in the auction industry, we're pretty much experiencing the same thing. There's been a tenfold increase in interest through phone bidding and internet bidding. Because some of the states have to quarantine. If you come from some of the states, you have to quarantine for 4 days in the state of New York.
Oh,
We're
really?
fortunate that all the states that surround us, that touch the state of New York, they're all clean and can come in. But, you know, I bring in my auction team and staff. I bring in additional admin staff to help me with the actual production. And it's been a real challenge because a lot of them are in Indiana or in other states where theoretically you're forced to quarantine. So we've found some loopholes and ways to make it happen.
Well, that's good. So it sounds like it should be a pretty good auction. And you've got somewhere around 250 cars that are going to be auctioned off in 2 weeks. And okay. Well, that sounds good. And you know what? You're in a beautiful part of the upstate New York there. It's Saratoga. I think. How far are you from Lake Placid?
I'm about 2.5 hours, but you're right. I mean, once you go north from Saratoga Springs, you can go up by Lake George, take Route 9, take it all the way up to Lake Champlain.
Mm-hmm.
You can cross over into Burling, Vermont, or you can go west and go to Lake Placid. So, and if you're a car buff, there's some just wonderful. I thought the best roads in the world were in Montana.
Uh-huh.
So there's some great roads up along the Adirondacks up in that area to take your sports car and really enjoy it.
Super. Well, Bill, I want to thank you very much for hanging out with us here at Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Yeah.
I wish you all the best with the Saratoga Motorcar Auction, and and the best of luck also with the museum. And if you ever need some help here in Florida, need some cars, something checked out, please keep me in mind.
Hey, I really appreciate that. In fact, once this COVID thing's over next year, I might be taking you up on that.
Okay. Very good. There's a lot of stuff around here, so I might know something that might just work for you. But anyway, again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, oh my goodness. I mean, Florida, New England, and California, that's where they're at.
That's it. All right, Bill. Yep. Well, thank you very much again, and say hi to everybody up there. I'm sure we have some mutual friends, and look forward to meeting you someday.
Okay. Yeah, me too, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Best of luck.
You bet.
Hey, listeners, I want to thank my special guest, Bill Windham, the director of the Saratoga Motorcar Auction. It's in 2 weeks on the 18th or 19th, somewhere in there. And all the information's online, SaratogaMotorcars.com, right? SaratogaMotorcarAuction.com. So, well, be on the lookout. Go check out some of these old roads in southern good old United States. Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Carolinas. There's a lot of cool treasures out there. In the meantime, I want to see some of you guys out on the road. See maybe some of the car shows. Don't forget Leadfoot City every third Sunday of the month. Sumter every first Sunday of the month. Tune in every Tuesday here on the Tam Talk Radio Network between 7 and 8 p.m. Tell your friends. Follow us on Facebook, all the social media. Check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
Straight, deep and wide. Bring on to the other side. Bring on to the other side. Bring on to, bring on to, bring on to, bring on to.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
WZHR, Zephyrhills.
FM 104.3.
Listen.
President Trump tells followers in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that Joe Biden and the Democrats want to take their money and guns.
$4 trillion tax hike, a ban on American energy.